Hello and welcome to the Clout Blue podcast live on Wednesday morning. It's 10:45 on the 20th of August. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by John Townley to discuss a bit of a transfer roundup. Leon Bailey is confirmed now to have left Aston Villa on loan to Roma. Nicolas Jackson has been linked from Chelsea, and Nottingham Forest appear to be interested in Matty Cash as well, although Villa have or are opening talks about a contract as well, and we'll discuss all that and more throughout this episode. This is live, of course, so if you want to get involved in the live chat, we'll respond to you if and when we can. John, how's things, pal? You okay?
Yeah, all fine with me. Thank you, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to getting closer to another match weekend. I like talking about the games. You know, I've said many times the transfer window is, from a work perspective, it's very full on, isn't it? You know, you kind of think, oh, it seems to be quite quiet today. Nicolas Jackson, Matty Cash, Leon Bailey. Okay, podcast time then. There's things to talk about, which I'd rather talk about things than have nothing to talk about, of course. We'll start with Bailey very quickly. This is one that we know has been coming, for a week or so, maybe. So for that to be officially confirmed today, there's not loads for us to talk about, but nice to see that it's just done and all official now.
Yeah, and although it's a loan, he obviously has the option, doesn't he? Roma have the option to buy Bailey for around £19 million. So I think all in all, considering there's also going to be a small loan fee as well, I think the deal in total would be worth £22 million if they buy him next summer.
Yep.
So
I think it's a decent fee, to be honest.
I think that's probably as much as you could possibly get for him, to be honest. I think at the start of the window, I was holding out, hopefully, that you'd get 20 to 25 and Saudi would come in and put an offer in. But obviously that didn't materialise for the player. And I think we've probably got the next best thing, to be honest, considering we're in no real position to kind of hold our ground. We need to get rid of players to free up wages and bring in money at the end of the day. And if that means it has to be next summer, then so be it. Hopefully they can take up that option and Bailey shows some sort of form out there. He's obviously playing under a very good manager. And I'm sure they would have liked what they saw from him at the Bescott a few weeks ago as well. I know it's only a pre-season friendly and people probably laugh at that a little bit, but it genuinely played very well against Roma. It's one of the best halves of football I've seen Bailey play for a little bit of time.
Was that his audition tape?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, talks with clubs don't just happen one day and then the next. It's in the media. These things happen over a period of time. So I'm sure there would have been some sort of interest already, and that would have firmed up for them.
The maybe disappointing is maybe a stretch too far, but the disappointing thing is that it's an option to buy rather than an obligation. Yeah. If Bailey doesn't have a great season, he's going to end up back at Villa in 12 months' time, and we're in the same problem of, well, we still need to shift him, and probably somebody is not going to pay £19 million for him. So, yeah, you want him to go out there and do well and seal a permanent move away for Villa's benefit and for his as well, to be fair. He's still, is he 28, I think?
28 now. 28,
still a good age to go and have 5 successful years at Roma at a really good level. So, you want this to work out for all parties. It is, again, a little bit concerning maybe that as it stands, we are now absolutely light. Obviously, Jacob Ramsey now officially left. Leon Bailey the same. Neither of those featured against Newcastle for obvious reasons. But you don't even have that depth to call on at the moment. So Villa do need incomings. As you said, after the Jacob Ramsey deal, don't expect massive moves now. Villa go and drop 40 million on players. However, bodies are required, even if that's small cost transfer fees or loans. Villa need at least one forward, arguably 2.
Yeah, absolutely. We are really light, and we need not just bodies, but we need quality as well. Because if you have an injury to McGinn and or Rodgers at a certain point in the season, and who have we got? We've got Gesson, Marlon, Tielemans will have to play as a 10 probably. Obviously, at the moment we still have Buendia. If Buendia was to go, then you'd really be light. So it looks like Buendia at this stage would probably be staying, but certainly not a player that I'd be kind of hanging my hat on and saying, oh, that's a player who can start every game that we play next season. I don't think that's going to be the case, but certainly he could have a role to play. But as I just mentioned there, injuries, suspensions, whatever it may be, Villa are really light. And it's not just light on bodies. I think it's light on certain profiles of player as well. So that is definitely a worry. However, with 10 days of the window remaining or so, or just over that 12, Villa are obviously aware of this, and they will be doing everything in their power to provide Emery with the best squad possible. And at the end of the day, we're still a very attractive proposition for lots of players, although we don't have huge money to play with. Not a lot of money at all in terms of bidding for players or whatever it may be. But you would be coming into a club who are still trying to climb, and under Emery, that is not a kind of fantasy. When I spoke to him in Nashville, he said every season we've done something that we haven't managed to do the previous campaign, if that makes sense. For Villa, that looked like getting to the last 8 of the Champions League. So they're going to try and do that again in terms of go one better. Next season, for me, that has to be winning a trophy. So it's a very attractive proposition still. So that's why I'm not in a kind of position where like, oh dear, like firstly we need to bring in depth, and who is it going to be? I think we'll still be in a good position because there are players out there who I think would certainly be interested in joining. It's just a matter of getting those deals done with those clubs.
And the financial element of it as well, which we'll touch on in a sec when we talk about Nicolas Jackson. Martin in the comments asked, what's the max amount of loans? Is it 4?
No, it's 3, isn't it? I think.
Is that from the same league or something? Or
yeah, possibly. I remember looking into it when we brought in the 3 loanees last season. I thought it was 3, which we maxed out on, but
can't remember.
Yeah.
I don't see us signing more than 3 though.
No, we won't need.
So I don't think we'll hit that limit anyway. We did 3 last year. It'd probably be the same again. Even though I argue, I think we probably need more. Let's talk Matty Cash. I don't want to say quickly because there's not loads to talk about, but it may descend into something more because of the knock-on effects of that position. Nottingham Forest interested in re-signing Cash back. Wink, wink. It's a strange one, this, because if I was in a room with you, then you probably would have laughed, but it doesn't come across the same on a stream.
I wouldn't have laughed, just for the record.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, good. Not my confidence. Thanks for that, John. I don't know what I feel about this Matty Cash potential deal, to be honest. There's been talk of a new contract, 2 years left. We're at this kind of bite point of, well, if you're not going to sign a new contract, or we're not going to offer you a new contract, therefore you are for sale. It's the Ramsey scenario again, isn't it, really? Yeah. We spoke about a new contract for him, I'm sure, a week or 2 ago, maybe, that was like in the works or could be in the works, right?
Yeah, last month I was told that was something that Villa had, whether it's kind of a formal opening of discussions. I was told that it was more of like they've essentially indicated that they'd be willing to extend his deal, but clearly that obviously means also that there's room for a different kind of situation as well. This boils down to a Villa willing to let a player go with not a lot of time left in the window, and they're already restricted by rules. I don't know exactly what Villa's finances look like to the point where, okay, well, if you were to sell this player for £20 million, you could then bring in. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's such a complicated situation for Villa that we can't sit here and say, oh yeah, that would be a great deal for Villa, or oh no, don't do that. This is completely dependent on what Villa, how they would look at the situation of, well, who would be the replacement for Cash, firstly.
Yeah.
What would they cost? How much of that money that they would get from Cash would go into the team? So that's why it's quite early to say, oh yeah, look, sell him because of this reason. We don't know what Forest would, what kind of ballpark figure they'd be looking at. They've spent a lot of money this summer as well. I don't presume they're in a position to break the bank to sign Matty Cash either. So it's a complicated one, but the only information I had on Cash's future, which you say last month, was that they're, they've kind of implied that they'd be willing to look at the situation, but that's obviously the same case for a few different players. But with less than 2 years left on his deal, it's not yes, it's a situation that you'd rather get kind of look at quicker, sooner rather than later. But as I say, you've got McGinn, you've got Tielemans, you have other players that we've just had to re-sign, Kamara and Luka Dean as well. I don't think Cash was at the top of that list, essentially, because those are the things that Villa had to get done. But now if Forest are going to kind of test Villa's resolve in the last few days of the window, we'll see where it goes. But considering what we knew about Villa's finances a few days ago, I think it could be a big risk, to be honest. Again, unless they see, okay, here's a target that we'd rather pursue now rather than in a year or whatever to get Cash to bring in the best money we can for Cash, because obviously, less than 2 years on his deal, 1 year next summer. So
We've spoken about pure profit for Ramsey. Now, Cash isn't pure profit because we spent a transfer fee on him, but that was 5 years ago. So his book value is very small. If we were to sell him for 20 million, you would expect that does give Villa wiggle room to sign a player. Now, how much wiggle room? Does that mean they can spend 20, 25 on a replacement? If so, is that player better than Matty Cash? Okay, good deal then. If they can spend 7 or 8 million and it's a championship right back that Emery thinks it could be good, that's a risk, isn't it? And people don't like Matty Cash, but the grass might not always be greener, that his replacement might not be as good. Cash is a really interesting one as a kind of divisive player. We bought in Nedeljkovic, he's gone. Bought in Garcia, he's not had any minutes really at the moment. Conce has played right back. The general consensus is, can we upgrade on him, and should we upgrade on him? Yeah, probably. But Emery, the manager that we all laud as tactical genius, blah, blah, wins trophies, not for Villa yet, but elsewhere. He's picked him at right back for 3 years. He's survived 4 or 5 transfer windows up until maybe this one. Like, Emery clearly rates him. If there's talk of a potential new contract, that's a player we want to keep. However, what's the process of if Forest do say, well, here's 22 million, is that enough for Villa to say, okay, well, we'll accept that because it means we can go and do this? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the reaction to it is generally you feel like everybody hates Matty Cash and he's crap and we can get rid of him and blah, blah, blah. Whereas the reaction to, well, if we potentially sell him, it's, well, surely we can't sell him because we don't have a right back. And this is an area we might be difficult in. So it's like, people don't rate him, but they also don't want to sell him. It's a really weird transfer to judge, I think.
Yeah, well, last summer we reported that AC Milan were interested in Cash, and they're obviously signing Emerson Royal at the time. They chose to proceed with that, then go for Cash, because Villa had let's essentially set a transfer of around £30 million. Milan weren't willing to go that high. I think it was around 20 that they were looking to pay. So if that was the figure last summer, then it would probably make sense for it to be around that 20 million figure again, you'd have thought. And that isn't information, that's just me speculating on that part. But again, considering I'm sure Cash should be more than happy to sign a new deal, even if it was an extension by another year or whatever it may be, that protects his value. So I don't think there should be a major rush to, okay, now it's the chance to kind of look at this position with, as I say, 12 days of the window remaining. Again, Forest haven't even formally opened discussion with Villa. So, I mean, that could change, at any stage, don't get me wrong. But it just feels a little bit, okay, we're really going to have to get our act together here if this is going to happen. I think it's possibly a big risk. I think that's the point. And I understand what some fans are saying about that position we could, possibly upgrade. And for me, you upgrade on top of Cash, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I always say that if you're going to upgrade your team, you upgrade your 11 and then your squad becomes better. So again, my opinion on this would purely be based on, well, what are Villa looking at as a possible replacement? If that replacement isn't there, you keep the player and you extend his deal by a period of time, and then you reassess the situation again next summer if there's a situation to reassess. Again, like, clearly Andres Garcia hasn't made a massive impression on Unai Emery, because although he's injured at the moment, even last summer he didn't get in the starting 11 or didn't play too many minutes at the back end of the campaign anyway. Obviously played pretty soon after joining because we didn't have Cash around. But yeah, so it's a very interesting one, and to be honest, I'm surprised it's taken this long for Forest to have a look at it. Obviously they've been looking at other targets as well, but this made sense to me, or it makes sense to me that this would be an option for them, and I'm surprised that it's taken this long. Sorry, for them to, because it's not a helpful situation for Villa, is it really? No. Unless again they have a clear target. But
I suppose Forest are doing that, improving their squad. They've got Aina, who's their right back, and Cash doesn't start over him for me, but they comes in to bring in competition and helps improve the depth of the squad, whereas it weakens Villa at the moment. Is there anything in this that is potentially agent talk of, we know Villa are interested in potentially offering a new contract? If there's interest from elsewhere, we get more money at Villa. Is that a thing?
Well, that does happen with some deals, but no, I wouldn't speculate on that, just because, again, the situation for Villa is that they'd be looking doing Cash's contract extension after the window, surely. Again, I was told last month that that's something that they were willing to look into, but it wasn't okay, let's sit down with him next week. Villa have obviously been aware since last summer that that his contract is now reaching a point where his value would start to decrease. So again, 3 years last summer, they valued him at around 30. AC Milan didn't want to go that high. Now it's at a point where it's a crossroads for me. This is a kind of football cliche, but you're at a crossroads now, aren't you? You either got 1 year left, or you sell for the highest price. That, you know, he's not going to get any higher in value here from Izzy, Cash. Again, unless you give him that kind of small extension. But then that screams, this is not a long-term solution. These two right backs here, Garcia is a player who I think does have a good future, but we've seen how kind of brutal it can be for some Villa youngsters. They sign and go literally weeks after signing, some of them. So we'll see what happens there. And then, for Cash, clearly that's a position where we want to improve on. But also, is it right to do so again so late in the window, considering Villa's finances as well? It's a bit of a murky one, but I just go back to this is up to Villa. We can give our opinion, but without knowing the targets that they have and what a transfer fee for X amount of money would do for their finances, we can't really give a definitive opinion on it.
Just finally on this Cash one then, I said this might be a quick section and it isn't. Danielis asks, how does a new contract protect his value? He'll be 29 next year. Do you want to kind of just explain when we say protecting value, what that means?
Yeah, I literally...
How we mean it.
Yeah, I only mean because next summer we have 1 year left, which, you know, that's essentially the last time you can really get a transfer fee of anything for a player. So if he hits 29 next summer and has another 2 years left on his deal, that's a much better position to be in, right? So that's all it is. Protecting value doesn't mean his value of now. It just means a valuation of a player who doesn't have 1 year left, which would be very low. The only thing I was going to mention quickly on that, unfortunately, it slipped my... Oh, yeah. From what we were told, Villa selling Ramsey, Bailey, Dendoncker and Moreno. And Moreno is close to joining Girona now. There would be some sort of fund that Villa could play with there. Yeah. What that looks like, we don't know. Of course, we're not going to be told that specifically. But that Villa will have a bit of wiggle room once wiggle room once those deals are all completed, and they are nearly completed. Dendoncker was yesterday on a free transfer.
Undisclosed fee, John. I think you'll find
undisclosed fee of I don't know 12p. And then Roma have got in Bailey, and now Moreno to Girona. Looks like that's going to be happening, hopefully. And then you have the cash situation as well, if I get my words out.
This isn't a scenario that Villa, I don't think, would want going into... I mean, we're in the new season now, going into the second week of the season, going into the final 10 days of the window. We talk a hell of a lot about get your business done early. That's the sign of a proper, well-run club. And it is. But sometimes these things happen that Villa are in such a kind of murky position financially that everything is just super difficult to get sorted. That... Do we anticipate selling Matty Cash to Nottingham Forest on the 1st of June? Probably not. But if it happens on the 21st of August, okay, well, we've now got 9 days to sort something. That's far from ideal. Yeah. I just hope that I trust the club implicitly, as I say all the time, to do the right thing. If they don't think the Matty Cash replacement is as good as Matty Cash and they can get away by not accepting the transfer fee financially, you have to do that then. You have to keep him. If the replacement's not as good as him, the Matty Cash isn't a world beater, that puts Villa in a tricky position that, well, maybe they're not going to win the Europa League then, or they're not going to finish in the top 5. So they've got to make the right decision, but the transfer fees and the wages and the finances make decisions more difficult. That Villa are now kind of operating in a window that they probably don't want to be playing in. They don't want to be messing around in the market at this stage, like losing your first choice right back. That was the right-hand side that got us into the Champions League. Bailey's gone today. Cash could go, big could still at the moment. Okay, well, we know the right-hand side was a problem last year. So, okay, they're rectifying a problem area, let's say. Yeah. But not with 10 days to go. Like, it's all very slapdash, isn't it?
Again, as I keep repeating, this fully depends on what Villa's plan would be for life after Matty Cash. And is that something that's in place right now? I'm not sure. I can obviously try and find out. But... And Villa are now thinking, okay, well, should we pursue this target that we might have been going for in a year? You know, as I said earlier, that it just feels, as you said there, Dan, rushed and a bit scattergun. And that's something that we haven't been under the football department since Emery came in. So Yeah, like it's a complicated situation and one which will kind of see itself through in the coming days. But I'd be wary of it. That's all. Again, completely up to Villa what they do, and they will have if they were to sell Cash and Moreno goes after the 3 that have just gone as well. Villa would have some space to do something, but again, what that looks like, I don't know. And again, can they improve on Cash with the situation that they're in already? We'll have to wait and see. But as you said there, Dan, it's also a player who has been pretty much never present. Obviously, he's missed a few games through injury. Conser sometimes played there the season before last, more so than last season. But he's been pretty much never present with a team who have finished 7th, 4th, and 6th, and done so well in Europe as well. So I've always said, I think Cash has to be a player that you keep in your squad and you improve on that 11. So, yeah, if they were to do that, if they were sorry to sell Cash, then that isn't something that would be, that wouldn't happen.
Okay, let's move on. Carl says, by the way, in the comments, John, you have my granddad's book on your shelf. He wrote it on Doug Ellis. It's the Deadly Doug one. So, I don't know. Carl Parker is the commenter. I don't know whether the book is by A. Parker or not. And I assume you don't want to check in case your internet goes bad or something. So let's it is.
Crack on. Yeah, okay.
Okay. We want to talk about Nicolas Jackson. Now, our initial plan for today's shall we do a podcast or not? You and I were exchanging messages last night about the Nicolas Jackson link from Chelsea. And you were quite keen to discuss him and talk about him as an option for Villa. And this is not as I always say, Villa are definitely signing him or Villa are definitely looking at him, etc. We'll kind of get those caveats out of the way. We just wanted to talk about the potential of it and if it was to materialise, where does he fit in and those kind of things. Yeah. You wanted to talk about this, didn't you?
Yeah, so absolutely the wrong time to start looking at my books.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know why you did that, to be honest.
No, sorry about that. Well, yeah, again, it's such a horrible caveat that money, right, finance is what would hold this deal back. But I just feel like it's certainly something that would suit everybody. If Jackson, I'm talking about a loan, by the way, because
But this makes me uneasy because we've spoken a bit about Villa. They can't reinvest the Ramsey money, and we're really tight, and wages have to come down. Now, I assume Nicolas Jackson's on a decent wedge at Chelsea and would want to keep that decent wedge at Villa, unless Chelsea are paying some, of course. Chelsea are going to want a loan fee of probably quite a lot. That's money that can Villa afford it or not. We had last year the Disasi loan fee was quite expensive for what he was. Yeah. Chelsea, which I think is crazy, value Nicolas Jackson for a permanent move at 80 million. Now, half that, and I'd think about, even if it's that good value, you know.
Yeah.
So a loan, I kind of get it. But if we're talking about how tight Villa are, can we even do this? Like, is it worth giving it airtime? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So what I would say
we must be able to, if we're getting rid of Bailey and getting rid of Cash, like we're going to have to bring people in. Yeah. But is it Nicolas Jackson level, or is it lower than that?
If Villa could do something where it's a loan with an obligation and use part of this loan fee as that overall amount, that would make more sense, because I'm going to make something up. Not make something up, but I'm going to put an idea out there. So if you were to sign Jackson for, I don't know, an £8 million loan fee, which sounds steep, right, for a loan, but there's an obligation there to buy him next summer for 40. Well, then you're paying nearly £50 million for Jackson, and I think Chelsea would probably accept that. I know there's a lot of talk. I know there's a lot of talk about
like a deposit. Put a deposit down on him.
Don't talk to me about deposits. I had trouble in America getting in my hotels with deposits and all sorts, and I wasn't even talking about like houses. But next summer, if you pay a lump sum then, but you pay some of it now, as you just said, like a deposit.
Yeah,
but it would have to be an obligation, surely, because if you're paying £8 to £10 million of a loan fee and it's an option, but he doesn't play well, you just wasted £8 to £10 million.
Oh, he does play well, a la Rashford. He goes somewhere else.
Yeah, but if you haven't, true. But this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, really. Emery and Jackson go together. They are a brilliant. Why did you look exactly like Rick Gervais when you did that?
I don't know.
Yeah, but Jackson said himself that Emery's been key to his football development, and that he, in the 6 months that he worked in Villarreal, he became a player that he never was before. And Emery's spoken very highly about his work ethic, all those different things that, again, for a player that you from the outside, you see him trying to steal a ball from Cole Palmer to take a penalty and all those things, which aren't great. But this is clearly a player who needs someone like Unai Emery. And that's why I'd be very kind of enthused about it. I've said this before about a lot of attacking players, even, like a Grealish. And there was another lad that we were linked with. I can't quite remember. Maybe not even linked with, but someone that I thought, well, you know what? If he was or if he was playing under Unai Emery, he'd be playing. This is his best opportunity to play. So, yeah, it's something that I'd very much welcome. It was Garnacho. That was it, Garnacho. But it's something that I'd very much welcome if we were able to get an agreement with Chelsea. The only thing I would say is that, kind of similar to what you said about Disasi there, Dan. For Chelsea, I think there's two different kind of thought processes here. One is you're giving Villa, potentially a rival, a player who you still rate and will probably do well for them because it's Emery. But then at the same time, if you want to get rid of him and earn as much money as you possibly can, I mean, Villa probably isn't the club to deal with in this situation. But also, Jackson's best chance of becoming the player that you hope that he can be, or presumed that he would, and get into form, all those different things. Emery's your best shot, right? So I say it's up to Chelsea. I'm sure Villa would love to do this deal, as long as the terms are right for them. Chelsea may make that difficult, but as the days go on, where are the suitors for Jackson? You're looking at Newcastle at the moment and thinking, what's going on with Isak? Apparently he's now staying, or they're going to force him to stay, and that's really messy. I would have sold him anyway, way earlier. But who else is out there? Bayern Munich apparently interested, but that's not happening at this stage. So I'm sure Jackson would love to reunite with Emery. So in an ideal world, this is something that would happen. But we don't live in an ideal world, and PSR, UEFA rules, UEFA. It's a challenge for any deal that Villa want to do, especially one for a player who last season was still playing lots of games for Chelsea. The season before that scored, was it 14 goals for them? So, yeah, definitely something I'd be interested in. And a player who, of course, can play off the left and up front. So he's versatile. He ticks those boxes.
I was going to ask you about his position. There's a question from Luke here. It says, where does Jackson play? Unai's really struggled to play 4-4-2 with two out-and-out strikers in both the Premier League and Europe. This is a weird one for me. And Scott just says, where does Jackson play? Now, to me, striker, right? He's a centre forward. Can he play off the left?
Well, yeah, when he played for Villarreal, that's where he again operated across different roles, but that's somewhere where he played quite often. And Chelsea have misprofiled him, not mismanaged him, but he plays as the number 9 for Chelsea, and I don't think that brings out the best in him at all.
Is he this weird kind of inside forward? He's not quite a 9, but he's not quite a left winger either.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between.
Yeah, which obviously we have in Gesson, we have in Marlon to a point. Although again, we're still kind of waiting to see what is Marlon for Unai Emery. I think we know what we would do with him, but what does Unai want to do with him? So that's kind of up in the air a little bit still for me. But with Jackson, this is a player who you can kind of plug and play. If we were to get him, Emery knows exactly what he's best at. I
do like that. Yeah, he
worked with him. Thanks. He worked with him. I don't know. Was it 2.5 years ago? And we'll now be looking at a player who has improved a lot since then, even still. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I'd be interested in. Just quickly, before he joined Chelsea in January 23. It was Bournemouth who he was going to sign for, but he was injured at the time, and his injury, I think, was he wasn't due back for another 2 or 3 weeks. So Bournemouth essentially cancelled the deal. But before that, he claims that Unai wanted him to go to Villa, which is interesting because maybe that's the money that we would have spent on Duran, potentially. Obviously not totally sure. I don't know that. I wasn't covering the club as I am now at the time. But when we signed Duran, Jackson claims that Unai wanted him to go to Villa after he left Villarreal. So literally 2 months after leaving Villarreal, apparently, Unai wanted Jackson. Then the Bournemouth move happened but didn't happen. And then Chelsea came knocking after, because in that period, so Bournemouth deal collapsed January 23. And then before the end of the season, I think he scored something mad, like 13 goals in that period. Like he hit top form, was scoring in most games. That's why Chelsea signed him for 30 million. I think the Bournemouth deal was around 20. So went in value at, 10 million pounds then. And is now apparently what did you say? 60, 70 million pound player around that. Yeah.
No way.
No, he's not. I think Chelsea are just playing hardball there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also not a player that you could just land for a similar price that they paid for him, which is fair, I think. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I'd like to see happen if we can make it happen.
There's a comment here from Marzi. It says, Jackson, no way is he as good as Duran and more unhinged than him. Definitely stay away. I think that's completely unfair. Players get a bad
No one's
rep.
more unhinged than Duran.
Exactly my point, yeah. Jackson may be unhinged, but not more than John Duran was. I think you're right that certain players sometimes don't fit in the right clubs or managers or systems. And is it a massive surprise that one of Chelsea's billion signings hasn't worked out? No. Could he be brilliant for Villa under Emery? Yeah, maybe. Could he be terrible? Also, maybe. It's one of those ones that I'm sure I've had doubts about Jackson in the past. I'm certain.
Oh, we all have. Yeah.
And rightly so. However, if Unai Emery wants him, has worked with him before, I've saw some quotes from Jackson that are kind of like, basically like, everything I know about football is from Emery, basically. Yeah. If he can get that working again at Villa with Ollie Watkins, that is potentially exciting. Now, quickly on Watkins, from Sten Joe. If we get Jackson, I think we sell Watkins. Now, next summer, maybe if Jackson signs permanently, is there a potential succession plan to replace Watkins? Who knows? This window specifically, Aston Villa will not sell Ollie Watkins. I think we can be pretty bold in that stance. I mean, that's what Villa have told us, at least anyway, or told you. They've got no intention of selling any more key players, as in the ones they don't want to let go. Martinez, Kamara. Obviously, Kamara's had a new deal, but you get my point. Yeah. They have no intention to sell any of those, but specifically Ollie Watkins as well. There was reports yesterday that, I don't know, different clubs would be interested in Watkins from various sources that you shouldn't believe, in my opinion. And Villa confirm their steadfast nature. Ollie Watkins not for sale at any cost. Now, if Jackson comes in on loan, Ollie Watkins does not leave. Could he next summer? Yeah, that's a different conversation, right? But for now, Ollie Watkins is Aston Villa's main number 9, 100%.
Yeah, exactly that. I was told yesterday, just this is not happening. It's not on the agenda. Ollie Watkins will not leave. And also something that we said previously in the window.
Yeah, we've said this for a long time.
But also the not for sale. Every player has a price. And obviously, as the window goes on, that price gets higher and higher. But the point being, if a club is interested, like Man United were early in the window, but they're willing to pay this amount of money, that's for Villa, not even a conversation that he's not for sale. So it was never really on the cards that Watkins would be leaving this summer anyway. But this is why I keep saying with Jackson, his versatility. I think it's very useful for lots of different reasons. And this is why I like the deal, because can't kid ourselves with Watkins having 2 years left next summer. When is he going to be 31 then? Is that right?
I don't know.
I think. Again, you have to think of decisions, financial decisions, and
it's 30 this Christmas.
Okay, so you're going to be approaching 31. Obviously, a player I don't want to be selling at any stage, and I don't think it's worth Villa selling them at any stage, because what's his price going to be next summer? Well, if he's going to get a certain amount of goals, those goals could outweigh the cost of the transfer fee, right? But if to kind of play devil's advocate, and you signed Jackson as an obligation next summer, right? And Watkins was to go, and again, that's so far down the line, it's just a thought. Well, then you've kind of married up a situation there where you at least have a forward, and you're not desperate then to replace a player like Newcastle. They've got an unhappy striker, one of the best in the world, and what a terrible situation that is. They neither have money to bring in for him, they neither have the player himself. Like, what's going on? And then you're trying to buy Wissa, who is apparently worth 50 million, which is ridiculous. Good player, but never worth that. Himself's turning 29, 30. That's not a situation Villa need to be in. So it makes you more secure that next summer, if there's a decision on Watkins, it may be as simple as he's not for sale again. Okay, fine. And then you have 2 players who can play up front, guess on as well, Marlon too. Or if it's a situation where, okay, Watkins is now going to go, you're not scrambling around thinking, what are we going to do? You have players who can at least fill that void, and you're not desperate then. So I think for a number of reasons, if we can get it done, I think it'd be fantastic. And again, I know there's a lot of sort of
hoops to jump through.
Yeah, but just on Jackson itself, there's always criticism of Jackson, and then we've all had a laugh of when he scored a hat-trick against Tottenham, the worst hat-trick ever, and you can't give Jackson 12 chances, he'll make you pay. But it's... it was a funny game, that. But I'm enthused by the fact that if he's working with Emery, it's a great chance for him to rediscover his form. And someone said earlier, it's unhinged or whatever. Emery's worked with him before, and if we were to sign him again, if he was to sign him again, clearly there's no issue there, basically. Because would Emery sign Duran again? No. No, he would not. So it's a completely different situation. And I think a lot of what you see in Chelsea is a young dressing room that isn't experienced, has very little senior leadership. Even the manager's young. And this is why I keep saying they can spend all the money they like, but I don't foresee them ever challenging for a title, especially like this. They can sign players worth 50, 60 million pounds, but they're only 21 and they have no real football experience. If Jackson was to come into our dressing room where you have senior leaders like Mings, McGinn, Emery, of course, his footballing staff, everything else that comes with it, Pau Torres, of course, he's
played with Villarreal. Yeah, would he play with Torres?
He must have. Yeah. There's a lot there that, for me, puts some criticisms in the bin or worries in the bin. I think all you've got to look at in terms of Jackson is what would he give you on the pitch? That's all I'd be looking at. And there may be a few missed chances here and there, but
we're familiar with that.
And again, if Emery likes it and wants it, and he can, again, plug him and play him in a certain position and the structure still works, then I'm happy with that. We could be saying, sign this player instead. But if ultimately, if Unai wants that player, who are we to say that, oh no, this one should be a better alternative? So hopefully it's something that we can get done.
2 comments here that I assume are meant to be next to each other. From Pete, first of all. Newcastle fans will cry going from 24-goal Isak to 10-goal Jackson. Let them sign him. And Luke replied further down the chat, if he did come in and get 10 goals for us, he would have been our second highest top scorer last year. So, you can't, you can grumble with 10 goals.
Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, like if Watkins gets his customary 17 to 20 odd in the league-ish, and Jackson gets 10 to 12, and Rogers gets 10 to 12, and Gesson gets 7 or 8. Like then you've built a squad that is contributing.
I'd snap your hands off to bring in Jack. I mean, depends on the price is right, but if you said Jackson scores 10 goals through this season, fine. That's one of 4 or 5 players you need to get 10 goals or thereabout.
Yeah.
He'd have done his job, really. And again, we're not bringing him in to play. Oh, wait, maybe we will. Who knows? But we're not bringing him in.
He plays some games up front because that's the kind of gives Watkins a rest.
Yeah, but we're not going to bring him in to solely replace Watkins, or Watkins will now be on the bench. I'm sure it'll be a situation where we'd have to play off the left, because who have we got playing off the left at the moment? Maybe 2.
Ramsey and Rogers.
You obviously got Gesson and Rogers. For me, Rogers is better down the middle. On the right, you have a situation where, again, Gesson is there, Marlon's there, you have McGinn too. So if you add Jackson to that, I think you've got a blend there. And I still have question marks over width and what exactly is happening there. But what happens with Cash? Does Cash go, and then you bring in a right back who can offer you that width and quality? There's a lot of moving parts now, I think, in the last 12 days of the window. So our kind of concerns in the last few days of, what exactly we're seeing stylistically and in terms of the structure, maybe those will be answered in the next few days. So that's exciting, but also a little bit scary because, as we said earlier, I think there'd be some risks that we could avoid. But if you could bring in Jackson, I think there's a low risk there, to be perfectly honest, just because it's Unai.
Yeah, if this was Steven Gerrard as manager going, he's been okay at Chelsea, maybe I can get something here, I'll be like, ugh. But he's worked in Emery, that's a big factor. Just quickly, comment from Marine Boy. Every player is for sale at the right price. Yes, we know, we've spoken about this quite a lot.
What is the price that the club's willing to pay?
Yeah, the point is for Watkins, why we're so bold on that, is that nobody will get to the right price. Villa probably want, I don't know, because they've not disclosed it, but let's say they want 60 million. No one's going to pay 60 million, so he's not for sale at that price. Somebody might offer 30, Villa don't want to accept 30, therefore he's not for sale. Rogers is probably 100 million Villa would want to start the conversation about a move away. If no one's going to offer 100, he's not for sale. And that's why we can be kind of so bold as to say he's not going to leave and hopefully not look stupid. If Man United say, here's 90 million for Watkins, we're desperate. Okay, different. You then are for sale. And Villa have to move quickly to go and sign Isak or whatever. But do you know what I mean? It's not going to happen. Ash Warren says, by the way, the point you made on yesterday's video about Man United's debt and Villa not having debt, yet Man United can splash the cash they have, that was a wild point. Now, I don't know whether Ash means that that's a wild point as in like we're wrong, or that they just like weren't aware that United had loads of debt, but that's true. They have lots of debt and can still spend. That's why there's so much frustration about that.
Four of the 6 most clubs, the 6 clubs who have the most debts are in the Premier League, 4 of which are Big 6. So the ones who aren't Chelsea and Man City.
Oh, he said, yeah, we were right. Yeah.
And of it, Everton and Tottenham have bought a stadium, right? Built a stadium. But yeah, we're not going to get into that now. I've almost kind of drawn a line. When I'm going to sort of post that video later, my sell on that will essentially be, we've had a big moan here. I don't really want to go back into it again. We all know the rules are, this, that, and the other, but I don't want to keep bringing it up because it is negative, although it's very true at the same time. But that was just our chance to be like, you know what, this is our placeholding video for anger.
We've done that quite a lot this season, actually, over the summer. Like we did one episode about Grealish and didn't mention him again for reasons that turned out to be true. Villa haven't signed him, so why keep talking about him? We've done our big piece now about the league, and a lot of people probably went into that video or saw that video posted yesterday and thought, oh, this is just going to be about PSR again. But it's actually more, that's a big chunk of it, but a lot of it is like just the media attention that certain clubs get. It's that I'm tuning into Villa at 2:00 and they're showing me the Chelsea players get off the bus, and it's like, I'll just feel like we and all the clubs don't get enough attention and stuff. It's
why no one brings this up? Sorry, not in the media. Why is no one talking about Man United having this huge debt, and why are the clubs who don't have it can't spend money? Like, why aren't we talking about rules changing and being kind of afraid to, it's all Anyway,
go and watch the other video or listen to that podcast yesterday. It was called like Villa's ambitions are blocked or something. It's had a good reaction. So if you want to go back and catch up on that, please do. Anything else you want to discuss, John? So I've got one little plug I want to do.
No, all I'd say is that the window changes very quickly. So take what we've said here with a pinch of salt, because we have to say that whenever we do transfer videos, things can change literally within minutes and hours. So
yeah, we kind of like the Jackson deal, but he could end up playing for Newcastle in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, again, all depends on what happens in discussions and with any player as well.
Yeah. Okay, the final thing I want to plug, and I've been meaning to do this for ages. I think I've told you about this, John, before. I listened to the Football Cliches podcast, and they had a segment a few months ago now where they had a listener build like an archive for them that you could search words, and it comes up with a list of every time that word has been mentioned. And I thought that was a really good thing as a producer to not have to do manual archiving. Massive, really helpful. So they kind of linked the guy who did that for them, and I messaged this guy. I think his name was Jack. I've not got it in front of me, and just said that was really cool. Like, I do a podcast as well. Like, that'd be really useful. And he was like, "Oh, I'll do it for you as well for free." I was like, "Brilliant." Okay, go on then. So I'm gonna screen share it quickly. I'm gonna publicize this as like an open tool if anyone wants it. It's called Claret and Blue and .browse.show, and you can search any word. So Nicolas Jackson.
Oh god, this could be bad.
spelled wrongly. And every reference to Nicolas Jackson that we've ever said on any episode is here.
John, he's rubbish. I'd never sign him.
Because I've just said, like, I'm sure I've said times where like I've not rated him. It will be in here somewhere, and you can click on these lines. I'm going to be careful about which one I click here, and it won't play the audio on the podcast. But it says
this is just receipts. I don't like this at all.
what episode it was from? How many Villa players get into the Man City team? Ivan Toney? No. Isaac or Callum Wilson? Great players. But would I swap him? No. All of a sudden, you're looking at Nicolas Jackson. You're looking at Heung-min Son, massively translated wrongly on the thing, who's not a number 9. Yeah, the translation's not great, but it takes you to that episode. And if you press play, it plays that segment specifically. Cool. So it's a very, very good tool for me. So when we say, Villa, I predicted Villa to finish 7th last year, I can search that and go back and find when I said it like that.
I just the thought of hold on, mate. You said last year.
I can now bring that up. Yeah, so I've definitely slagged off Nicolas Jackson missing chances on this podcast, and then we're gonna potentially have him play for Villa. I can go and find that clip if I really want to. I'm not going to, obviously, but somebody else could if they want to. So,
great, cheers, mate.
I'm going to share the link down for that down below. I'm sure it was a Jack that did it for me. For us, I suppose I could say. I thought it was really good. Yeah, Jack Copper on Blue Sky sent me a message, just like, done it, mate. Here you go. I was like, wow, amazing. I've used that loads over the last few weeks. That we did an episode where you mentioned, I said this a few weeks ago. I went in, searched the term, found it, and put it straight back in. So really good tool. I thought I'd give that a little plug. If anyone wants to have a look at claretandblue.browse.show at things we've said over the years, then go back and find it. Some of the translations aren't great. So I've searched words or like names, like Emery is often spelt wrong and things like that, and it'll say like you've mentioned this word 1,000 times or whatever. And it's like, wow, we should really stop talking about X. Right. Anyway, that'll do for this little podcast. John, thank you very much for joining me this fine Wednesday morning. It's been a good chat about all things transfers. Thanks to the 345 people who are still watching live at the very end as well. We appreciate you being here. Tomorrow, we're hoping to launch a new show. You, me, and Matt Kendrick are going to do a weekly chat for 30 minutes on something Villa related. That can be whatever topic we want to talk about. We kind of wanted to, we are on the logo. We are the face of the podcast, if you like, the three of us, but we don't often do things as a three. So I'm keen to rectify that this season and do more stuff together. So that will be starting from Thursday. Friday will be the Brentford preview. Saturday, Brentford post-match. So from Monday, that's a podcast every single day this week. So thank you very much for tuning in to all of the episodes. We'll catch you again tomorrow. Jan, thanks for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching or listening. We'll see you tomorrow.